Hello everybody, my name is Heather VanCura. I'm former Czech Java User Group co-leader on this university, so they asked me to do this introduction. Give talks scheduled for tonight. They can get talks about MySQL and Helidon, and then correctly join about the wines. So let me give over to Heather VanCura, who is the vice president for Reco, a lot of things.
Okay. Thank you. I'm happy to be back in Prague, and good to see the user group community coming back together again. I think we were just talking before we started our formal comments here tonight, but you see this around the world ever since we've come back from the pandemic. The user group communities, you start out small, but really it's just a matter of having the regular meetings and getting people together, and that really is what the user group community is all about. It's about getting together, sharing what you're learning, and developing new skills, and forming connections and relationships. So I'm really happy that my work schedule brought me to Prague again. It's been over 5 years since I was in Prague, and I used to come quite regularly. I think I already know most of the people in the audience from my travels over the years. But tonight we get to bring together some people from the Java platform group, from the Helidon team, and from the MySQL community team. So really a joint community effort here tonight. And we've got those 3 talks lined up for you. I'm going to just share a few opening comments. If you don't know me, I work at Oracle. I used to work at Sun. I started working on Java at 1.2 or something like that, a really long time ago. And as Jakob said, I've kind of expanded my role. Now I'm the Java community process and mentor the MySQL community team, and then also working on some other standardization efforts that we do at Oracle to grow our cloud business and focus on interoperability and machine learning, artificial intelligence, and most recently, healthcare, of course. In case you missed the news, we're moving our headquarters again to Tennessee from Texas. But I'm based in California, originally from California, but I love visiting places all around the world. I think user groups are really one of the best places to do that, because when you come together in a community, it's not about experts or knowing everything. It's more about connecting with actual people and hearing about your experiences and having you share them with each other. So that's really the most encouraging and really, I guess, refreshing and energizing part about my job is being able to come and meet with all of you. So I look forward to interacting with you during the breaks. I'm going to share just a couple comments about the platform itself and kind of what brought me here. And if you are a Java developer, you may not be aware how Java is evolved through the JCP, so I'll share a little bit about that. Who's a Java developer in the audience? So this is actually half of you are Java developers. You may or may not be aware of some of the things I'm going to talk about. So Java technology started, coming up on 30 years since Java was introduced. Java continues to be one of the most popular programming languages in the world, and our innovation pipeline is stronger now than it ever has been, even though it's a technology that's almost 30 years old. Because of some of the changes that we introduced about 5 years ago, we have a really strong innovation pipeline, and you're going to hear from Daniel, who's going to talk about some of the most recent innovations and how their team has incorporated some of those innovations into Project Helidon. So that's exciting. And the current version we're working on with Java is Java 22. And anyone using Java 22 in production in the audience? 21? 21. Helidon's using 21, I think. No? Of course. You can't use Helidon without 21 now because you have virtual threads. Okay. I was listening to Daniel's presentation yesterday. But the things that have remained constant with the Java platform, and this is part of my role as I lead the Java community process and work with the Java platform group, and you actually have people here in Prague working in the Java platform group, and they should be future speakers at the meetup. Raise your hands. There you go. Go me, Adam and Jan. So focusing on performance, stability, security, compatibility, and maintainability. And I think one of the main things that the JCP does is to provide that foundation and platform for compatibility. And that, I believe, compatibility and community is what really makes the Java community so unique and so strong. So right now, we are up to 10 million Java developers around the world using Java technology. And before we got started, we were talking about Java continues to be the #1 programming language in the world. We're focused on cloud deployments right now, but there's 60 billion active JVMs, with nearly 40 million of those being focused on the cloud now. You might remember from the early days, we were focused on lots of different things in the Java ecosystem. Now we're really focusing on developers deploying apps to the cloud with the Java platform. And we've shifted to a long-term support model, like lots of other technologies. So that means that we have LTS releases every 2 years now, and platform releases every 6 months. So that's a new thing for Java, but that really is the catalyst for a lot of the innovation that I talked to you about. So I talked to you about the innovation pipeline being strong. And while we have now new release of Java every 6 months, we still have those projects in OpenJDK. Everyone has their typical favorite project. But what happens now every 6 months is projects still happen in OpenJDK, and Java enhancement proposals come out of those projects. We don't wait for a certain project to be done. For example, say Project Loom, we don't wait for Loom to completely finish before we deliver Loom. We introduce parts of the projects as they're ready through Java enhancement proposals. And that gives us smaller, more incremental change that provides stability for customers, but yet still new features for developers. And it also allows you to really be able to incrementally learn more about the new technologies that come to the platform. So rather than having with a new release of Java over 100 different new features, you'll have maybe 6 or 7 new features. So that means if you're paying attention and absorbing those new features as they come out in a new release of Java every 6 months, you're actually going to be able to become more familiar and learn some of those product features more quickly and thoroughly, and be able to take advantage of them in your role at your company. So that can make you an expert or become the person who people come to and say, what's new in Java, and you can be the one who's going to tell them about it. So you can come to your Java user group to learn about that, or you can go to OpenJDK project and download early access releases every 2 weeks. They're coming out. So these, I picked just a few of the projects that you might be interested in. So what I encourage people to do is just take a look at some of the cool projects. I've listed some of them here. We have Project Amber that's introduced a lot of new small language improvements. And then there's also Project Valhalla, which is focusing on a replacement for JNI, and Project Loom, which I mentioned, and Danny's going to talk a lot about Project Loom later. So that's where we get virtual threads. So Java 22 is the current release of Java. We're working on Java 23 already. That's going to come out in September. And as I mentioned earlier, smaller incremental releases with just 9 new features in Java 22. But some of the things that we've seen over the last few years are coming out of Project Amber, things like records and patterns and pattern matching for switch. Those are a few of the new enhancements that came out into the platform. They've also had some library improvements. I think Adam's working on some library improvements, so that's a future topic that we can dive into. I'm giving you just a very brief overview. And the virtual threads. Danny's going to be talking to you about virtual threads later tonight, talking about how Project Helidon takes advantage of and implements virtual threads. And of course, as I mentioned, performance improvements coming out in every new release of the Java platform. And another interesting project is generational ZDC. So we're transitioning to generational ZDC over a few different releases of the platform, so it's already been in preview a couple of times. And generational ZDC is going to become the default garbage collector in the Java platform, so that's an interesting project. And while we also have this rich innovation pipeline, what we've also seen is this slide, which shows you where's the contributions coming into the Java platform. Of course, it's still primarily coming from Oracle, but one of the things that I've noticed every platform release is that we do continue to see more and more contributions and bug fixes coming from the community. And I believe that it's because you can see the changes going into the platform and have that immediate recognition, or your fix getting immediately into a platform release every 6 months. You don't have to wait 3 or 4 years for the next version of the platform. So not only does that give you more innovations more quickly, it also gives contributors the motivation to actually put their bug fixes in, because they're actually going to be able to take advantage of having them in a final release that they can use in production sooner, potentially as soon as a few months later. In the Java ecosystem, we have lots of different things that come together, and this product, it's OpenJDK, it's the Java community process, it's Java user groups, it's Java champions, it's Oracle Academy, Oracle University. I am going to say a couple things about education, because I think that's another key opportunity for you here in your local community to get involved with students and help them learn about Java, so you can bring up that next generation of Java developers. So we're celebrating 25 years of the JCP this year. Who knows what the JCP is? Most of my audience are in that. Okay. So Java Community Process. Essentially, the Java Community Process defines the platform specification for Java. So everything that goes into the final releases of the Java platform has to be ratified by the JCP. So we have an executive committee that does that. I'm the chair of the organization. The executive committee has to vote on every JSR. So the Java platform is a JSR that's made up of a collection of JEPs that are produced in OpenJDK. But before anyone, including Oracle, can use the final release of a platform, it has to be rolled up into a JSR in the JCP, and the executive committee has to ratify that it is approved and can be released for production. And that's when Oracle can use it, as well as all of you can use it in development and in the applications that you're building. So the JCP is the function that ensures that we have a complete specification. So that's why you have a very complete documentation for Java. It ensures that we have compatible implementations. So that means that you have choice in the implementations that you use. And it also provides that reference implementation for you. So that's the code. So the reference implementation of the Java platform is the one that Oracle produces. That's the reference implementation, but there's lots of other providers who give you choices in the implementations. And that's the foundation and structure that the JCP provides. But really, the main work of the JCP is done by the community. So as I mentioned, Oracle acts as the spec lead for the Java platform, but there are some standalone optional packages that community members use, and they act as the spec lead. So not always is Oracle the spec lead. The JCP is set up as a foundation where anyone who's a member of the JCP can lead a JSR, which can be a standalone optional package, or it could be a platform JSR. And then the spec lead works with members of the community who act as their expert group, and also contributors. And that's a really key role for Java developers, to be a contributor for a JSR. And that might be simple things like reading the specification and pointing out inconsistencies. It could be trying out early access builds of the reference implementation and providing your feedback on the experience. But that ensures that the things that are delivered at the end are based on real-world feedback from developers who have used the technology before we release it. So we can have members in the JCP that are Java user groups. So we have over 100 Java user group members. We have corporate members, and then we have individual members. The reason that brought me here today is I was meeting with the executive committee. So this is our executive committee, just to put that turn, give you some faces here. This was not our meeting in Munich yesterday, but our meeting in New York in September. So we meet face to face twice a year. We talk about things happening in the community. We talk about technology. We talk about governance model of the Java community, things happening in the ecosystem. We talk about how we can support third-party library maintainers, all these different aspects that affect Java developers every day in their jobs. So collaborative development is what the JCP is all about. We have the members who are doing the work. We have the JSRs, which are the projects, and then we have the people forming the expert group delivering for every JSR, the reference implementation, the specification, and the test suite. And all those things working together are what provides the foundation of that ecosystem, which provides a multitude of choices and the whole third-party library ecosystem that gives you choices, not only in implementation, but also the third-party tools and libraries that you use. So Java is developed in a way that is standards and open source. So I believe that is what is truly unique about Java, and that it really is a language that is based on community. So all those different programs and topics that I talked about earlier, it all comes together to create the platform that half of you are using every day in your job. So the reference implementation, the open source part of the Java platform is developed in OpenJDK. Now on GitHub as well. So if you're working on other projects, it's easy to find your Java projects in OpenJDK. And as I mentioned earlier, you can download those early access builds of the JDK every 2 weeks. So you can start to test out your applications in advance of the release of the platform. Now, I told you we were going to talk about education, and we have an initiative that we just started called Java in Education, and resources for you that can provide lectures and workshops that you can take to your local university. So if you want to get involved with that, talk to me at one of the breaks. And I'll leave and close before we transition to our first MySQL presentation with some links and places you can get more information. So follow OpenJDK on Twitter, or X. That's a great place to know when some new Java enhancements proposals are submitted, as well as when early access builds are available or when new versions of the platform are available for download. We also have a couple of news-related websites that you can get the information on. And if you're interested in joining the JCP, you can also do that. And not everyone needs to join the JCP. And most of the things I just talked to you about, you don't even need to join anything to do. It's all available and transparent for you to use. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the MySQL community team lead. And I will leave you with my contact information. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to approach me during the break. So, right out there, you can get this.